Ah, muchachos, tranquilidad, gente, tranquilidad. Lo principal, estemos tranquilos, muchachos, estemos tranquilos, tranquilidad. Pensemos jugar nomás, Tranquilidad, olvidémonos de todo, No lo juguemos, pensemos en jugar nomás, gente, en jugar. Dale.
The words lasted only a few seconds, but they may become the most analyzed words Lionel Messi ever spoke inside a football stadium. Argentina were standing in the tunnel at the New York, New Jersey Stadium, moments away from the 2026 World Cup final against Spain. Around them, more than 80,000 people were creating the kind of noise that seems to make concrete walls vibrate. Cameras were everywhere. The defending champions were one short walk away from the biggest match of their lives. And yet Messi did not give them a heroic speech. He did not shout about history. He did not promise revenge. He did not tell them to fight for the flag, for their families, or for the fourth star. Instead, he looked at his teammates and repeatedly asked them to remain calm. Let's just think about playing. Forget about everything. Let's play. Forget about everything. It sounded simple, but almost immediately, people began asking the same question. Forget about what? Because when the video spread across social media after Argentina's defeat, viewers were not only listening to Messi's words, they were studying the faces around him. Some players looked tense. Others appeared distant. There was little of the electricity normally associated with Argentina before a major match. No wild shouting, no celebration, no visible sense that this was a group about to defend the World Cup. To some viewers, they looked worried. To others, they already looked defeated. And then the theories began. One version claimed that a disturbing rumor had circulated inside the Argentine delegation shortly before kickoff. According to journalist Eduardo Feynman, there had been talk that FBI agents were at the stadium and might attempt to detain Argentine Football Association President Claudio Chiquitapia. The story exploded online because it appeared to offer an answer. Perhaps Messi was not telling his teammates to forget the pressure of a final. Perhaps he was telling them to forget a crisis unfolding around the leadership of Argentine football. But there is an enormous problem. No arrest took place. The Argentine Football Association did not confirm the story. Messi did not confirm it. Lionel Scaloni did not confirm it. No player publicly said that the rumor had reached the dressing room, and sources close to Messi later offered a far less dramatic explanation. They said the captain was referring to the atmosphere outside, the noise surrounding the team, and the emotional pressure of a World Cup final. His message was not about a secret operation. It was about football. Just play. That may be the truth, but it does not make the video less important. It makes it more important, because those words may reveal the true condition of Argentina before the final, not a team hiding a conspiracy, but a team carrying so much psychological weight that its captain's final instruction was to erase the world outside the tunnel. And Argentina could not do it. They could not forget the criticism. They could not forget the controversy. They could not forget the possibility that this was Messi's final World Cup match. They could not forget the responsibility of defending the trophy. They could not forget the scars of the previous month. And when the pressure finally broke through, Argentina lost more than a final. They lost their discipline. They lost control of the story. And they may have witnessed the final collapse of the most successful era in the history of their national team. To understand why those words carried so much weight, we have to return to the 19th of July, 2026. The final was supposed to be the perfect collision between two footballing worlds. Spain arrived as the champions of Europe, built around possession, spacing, patience, and a new generation that appeared almost frighteningly comfortable with power. Argentina arrived as the defending world champions, a team shaped by emotional resistance. They had spent years learning how to survive chaos, absorb pressure, and turn suffering into strength. Spain wanted control. Argentina trusted survival. And standing between those two identities was a 39-year-old Lionel Messi appearing in his 6th World Cup. This was not the Messi who had entered the 2006 tournament as a teenager. It was not the Messi who had walked away from the 2014 final with the golden ball and the expression of a man who had touched the trophy without truly holding it. It was not even the Messi who finally conquered the World Cup in Qatar in 2022. This was a veteran playing on borrowed time. Before the final, he had already produced 8 goals and 4 assists during the tournament. His performances had not resembled a ceremonial farewell. He had not arrived merely to wave goodbye. He had carried Argentina. He had scored when their campaign needed momentum. He had created both goals in the semifinal comeback against England. He had briefly moved beyond Miroslav Klose to become the leading goal scorer in World Cup history, reaching 21 goals before Kylian Mbappe finished the tournament with 22. At 39 years old, Messi was not protecting his legacy. He was still adding to it, and that made the final more dangerous emotionally, because winning would have created an ending so perfect that it almost felt written in advance. A second consecutive World Cup, a 4th title for Argentina, a final victory against a Spanish team containing Lamine Yamal, the boy once photographed with Messi when he was still a baby. The old king facing the symbol of football's next age, past and future in the same stadium, one final match to close a 20-year journey. But football does not care about narrative symmetry. It does not reward a player because the ending would look beautiful in a documentary. And sometimes, the closer a team moves toward the perfect ending, the more unbearable the pressure becomes. 4 days before the final, Argentina had been close to elimination. England led the semifinal until the 85th minute. Then Enzo Fernández equalized. Deep into stoppage time, Lautaro Martinez completed the comeback. Messi assisted both goals. It was exactly the kind of victory that had defined Scaloni's Argentina. They bent, they suffered, they looked finished. Then they survived. The comeback strengthened the belief that this team could always produce one final response. It reinforced the mythology surrounding them, but it also concealed several warnings. Argentina had played 1 day later than Spain. They had been forced into another physically and emotionally exhausting match. Their tournament had become a sequence of emergencies. Against Egypt, they had needed another comeback. Against Switzerland, the contest had again demanded enormous concentration and energy. By the time they reached New Jersey, Argentina had already spent weeks living close to the edge. And the edge is a dangerous place. At first, it can create unity. A team begins to believe that every attack against it is proof that the outside world wants it to fail. Criticism becomes fuel. Controversy becomes motivation. Each narrow escape strengthens the conviction that the group is protected by something larger than tactics. But eventually, living under constant siege begins to change a team. Every refereeing decision feels personal. Every opponent's comment sounds like provocation. Every physical challenge becomes an insult. Every mistake carries the weight of betrayal. Argentina had not arrived at the final in a calm environment. They had spent much of the tournament surrounded by accusations. Their aggressive style had been criticized. Opponents and commentators had questioned decisions that appeared to favor them. Their behavior had repeatedly become part of the conversation. After the semi-final victory over England, political controversy was added to the footballing tension. By the time they reached the final, Argentina were not only defending a trophy, they were defending an image of themselves. And that is why Messi's words matter. Forget about everything. It may have been an attempt to stop the tournament's accumulated anger from entering the field with them, but anger does not disappear because a captain asks politely. Sometimes it simply waits. Spain, meanwhile, entered the final carrying a very different form of confidence. Luis de la Fuente did not need his team to become emotionally explosive. He needed them to remain recognizable. Spain had defeated France 2-0 inches the semifinal. They had conceded only once during the entire tournament. Their defensive record was remarkable, but the more important quality was control. Spain understood who they were. Rodri gave the midfield structure. Fabian Ruiz provided movement and security. Dani Olmo operated between lines. Lamine Yamal forced opponents to distort their entire defensive shape. Pau Cubarsí defended with the calm of a player far older than his age. Unai Simon gave the team another passing option from goal. Spain did not require chaos to feel alive. They reduced chaos. Argentina needed the match to become emotional, physical, and unpredictable. Spain needed the match to remain a football match. That difference would decide everything. From the opening minutes, Spain controlled the ball. Argentina formed a compact defensive structure and attempted to deny central spaces. Their plan was understandable. Give Spain possession in less dangerous areas. Close the path toward goal. Wait for Messi, Julian Alvarez, or one of the midfielders to create a transition, but the transitions never arrived. Spain moved the ball from side to side, forcing Argentina to adjust again and again. Each pass appeared harmless in isolation. Together, they became a form of exhaustion. Argentina were not being destroyed by one spectacular attack. They were being slowly drained. Spain decided where the match was played. They decided when the tempo increased. They decided when to circulate the ball and make Argentina run again. And Argentina began to disappear. For 90 minutes, the defending champions did not register a shot. Not a shot on target. Not a shot off target. Nothing. Think about what that means. A team containing Messi, Julian Alvarez, Alexis McAllister, Enzo Fernández, and Rodrigo de Paul reached the final of the World Cup and completed regulation time without making a single attempt at goal. That statistic is more damaging than the final score. A 1-0 defeat can look close. It can suggest one unfortunate moment, one mistake, one cruel bounce. But the match was not balanced. Emiliano Martinez kept Argentina alive. The goalkeeper made save after save, preserving the possibility that Argentina could somehow reach penalties. And that possibility mattered because Argentina did not need to outplay Spain for 120 minutes. They needed to survive. If the match reached a shootout, the psychological balance could change completely. Martinez had built his reputation in exactly those moments. Argentina had experience. Spain would suddenly be forced to confront the most unpredictable version of the final. So even while Spain dominated, Argentina still had a pathway. It was narrow, it was ugly, but it existed. Then, in the 93rd minute, Enzo Fernández destroyed it. The challenge was late. It was reckless. Pau Cubarsí was sent into the air. The referee produced a second yellow card. Argentina were reduced to 10 men immediately before extra time. And this is where the story becomes cruel. Because just 4 days earlier, Enzo had been one of the heroes who saved Argentina against England. He had scored the equalizer. He had helped carry Messi into another final. Now, in the most important match of his life, he had placed the entire team in an almost impossible position. This is what elite football does to memory. It can erase heroism in a few seconds. It can take a player from national savior to national target before he has even had time to understand what happened. It is tempting to reduce the entire defeat to Enzo's red card. That is how football often protects itself from complexity. Find one face, find one mistake, find one moment that can carry the blame for everything. But that explanation is too easy. Argentina had produced no attacking attempt while they still had 11 players. Spain were already controlling the match. The red card did not create Argentina's problems. It removed their final protection against those problems. With 10 men, the task became almost impossible. Spain had more space. Argentina had less energy. Every defensive movement became heavier. Every recovery run became longer. Scaloni's team continued to resist, But resistance was no longer a strategy. It was a countdown. Then came the 106th minute. Pedro Porro delivered the cross. Nico Williams headed the ball back into the danger area. Ferran Torres met it first time and drove it into the roof of the net. Spain 1, Argentina 0. The goal looked simple, but it contained the entire logic of the match. Width, patience, fresh substitutes, movement away from the ball. A tired defense finally pulled apart. Spain did not steal the final. They completed it. Argentina finally attempted to attack after falling behind, but the response came too late. Spain protected the lead, and the seconds disappeared. When the final whistle sounded, Spain were world champions for the second time. For Messi, there would be no perfect ending. For Argentina, there would be no fourth star. And for Enzo Fernández, the longest walk of his career had already begun. But the match was over. The collapse was not because almost immediately after the whistle, the anger Argentina had tried to suppress in the tunnel returned to the surface. Players confronted each other. Leandro Paredes became involved in a serious altercation with Spanish players. Nahuel Molina was also caught in the chaos. Members of both benches moved toward the confrontation. Roberto Ayala, one of Scaloni's assistants, clashed with Dani Olmo. Scaloni attempted to calm the situation. The images spread quickly, and suddenly the discussion was no longer limited to Spain's victory or Messi's heartbreak. Argentina were being accused of losing without dignity. FIFA appointed a disciplinary investigator to examine the incidents, including the referee's report and available footage. It was the ending Messi had appeared desperate to prevent. Before kickoff, he had asked his teammates to forget the noise and simply play. After the final whistle, the noise consumed them. Now pause here, because this is the point where online storytelling becomes dangerous. In the hours after a major defeat, facts are rarely dramatic enough for social media. People want secret conversations. They want betrayal. They want a villain. They want one sentence that explains why 26 professional footballers failed to win. Soon, another story began circulating. It claimed that Enzo Fernández had apologized inside the dressing room. It claimed that Messi, overwhelmed by anger, looked directly at him and said, "We lost because of you." 5 words: a destroyed dressing room, a captain finally losing control. A young midfielder condemned by the man he had helped make world champion 4 years earlier. It is a powerful scene. It is also unconfirmed. No player has publicly verified that Messi said it. No named witness has produced evidence. No reliable recording has emerged. That does not prove the exchange never happened. Dressing rooms are private spaces. Many true conversations remain hidden forever. But until credible confirmation exists, the claim must remain what it is, a rumor. And perhaps the speed with which people believed it tells us more than the rumor itself. They believed it because the defeat appeared to demand a confrontation. They believed it because Messi had cried. They believed it because Enzo had been sent off. They believed it because the post-match brawl showed that emotions had already escaped control. Most of all, they believed it because we have been trained to imagine leadership as a dramatic moment. We expect the captain to explode. We expect the dressing room to divide. We expect a single sentence to reveal the truth. But Messi's leadership has rarely worked that way. For most of his career, he has resisted public blame. He has lived through painful defeats without identifying one teammate as the reason. In 2014, Argentina lost a World Cup final in extra time. In 2015 and 2016, they lost consecutive Copa America finals on penalties. Messi missed in the 2016 shootout and briefly retired from international football. He knew what it meant to become the face of collective failure. He knew what it meant to carry the anger of a country. That history does not make it impossible that he criticized Enzo. But it should make us cautious before turning an unverified line into the final truth of his international career. The real scene may have been quieter. And quiet pain is often more disturbing than shouting. Imagine the dressing room without inventing dialogue. Enzo had already spent extra time knowing that Argentina were playing with 10 men because of his challenge. He had watched Spain score. He had watched his teammates attempt to recover. He had watched Messi's final World Cup opportunity disappear. No accusation was required. He understood the consequences. Messi did not need to tell him. Everyone in the room knew. And sometimes the most brutal sentence is the one nobody says. Outside, Spain were preparing to lift the trophy. Inside, Argentina were confronting a future that had suddenly arrived. Messi was 39. Scaloni's contract was approaching its end. Several veterans had uncertain international futures. The era built after years of failure, the era that produced the Copa America, the Finalissima, and the 2022 World Cup, could no longer assume there would be another tournament to repair the damage. This may have been the final night of that group as the world understood it. And that is why the phrase in the tunnel now sounds almost prophetic. Forget about everything. Forget the last World Cup. Forget the criticism. Forget the accusations. Forget the idea that Messi deserved a perfect farewell. Forget the possibility that some of you may never stand here together again. Forget the future. Forget the past. Play this match. But human beings do not enter a World Cup final as empty machines. They carry memory with them. Argentina carried too much. After the final, Messi remained on the field. He sat on the grass and removed his boots and socks. Around him, the stadium was splitting into two emotional worlds. Spanish players were celebrating the greatest achievement of their lives. Argentine supporters continued singing. Messi looked toward the field with the expression of someone attempting to understand how a month of extraordinary football had ended without the trophy. Lamine Yamal approached him. The teenager embraced the man whose career had shaped the footballing world he inherited. The image was almost too perfect. Messi had been photographed with Yamal as a baby in 2007. 19 years later, they met on opposite sides of a World Cup final. But there was no symbolic handover arranged by destiny. There was only a winner and a loser. Later, Messi received his silver medal. When the Argentine supporters applauded, he cried. And when Spain lifted the trophy, he watched. That detail matters. He did not run immediately into the tunnel. He stayed close enough to see the celebration that might have been his. Hours later, he described the pain as enormous and said the wound would take time to close. He also spoke with pride about Argentina reaching consecutive World Cup finals and congratulated Spain. There was no public attack on Enzo Fernández, no accusation, no attempt to blame the referee, no confirmation of a crisis before kickoff, just pain. That public response does not answer every question, but it provides a contrast with the rumors. The Messi visible after the match was devastated, not vengeful. He appeared less interested in finding a criminal than in understanding the end of a journey. Then Lionel Scaloni spoke. His comments added another layer to the mystery. He said he felt sadness, but also knew his players had given everything. He acknowledged that Spain had been better. That admission was important. It removed the easiest excuse. The coach of Argentina did not claim that the final had been stolen. He did not deny Spain's superiority, but he also said there were many things he could say about how Argentina had reached that point and that it was not worth saying them. Those words were vague enough to invite suspicion. What things? Injuries? Fatigue? Scheduling? Internal problems? The controversy surrounding the team? The unusual events before the match? Scaloni did not explain. And once again, silence created a space that social media rushed to fill. Some connected his comments to the FBI rumor. Some interpreted them as evidence of dressing room conflict. Others believed he was referring only to the physical and emotional difficulties Argentina had overcome during the tournament. There is no verified evidence that Scaloni was exposing a hidden scandal, but his comments revealed something undeniable. He was exhausted. The man who had guided Argentina from collapse to world champions sounded like someone who had reached the end of his emotional capacity. He later indicated that he would probably leave when his contract ended in December. That announcement transformed the final from a defeat into a possible farewell. Messi's World Cup journey appeared finished. Scaloni's time as coach was approaching its conclusion. Emiliano Martinez's international future was also uncertain. The structure that had defined Argentina for years was beginning to loosen. Spain did not merely take the trophy. They forced Argentina to confront life after the generation that had restored its footballing identity. And now we return to the original question. What was Messi asking his teammates to forget? The most responsible answer is also the least sensational. Everything surrounding the final, the noise, the criticism, the hostility, the physical exhaustion, the emotional burden, the last dance narrative, the knowledge that one mistake could define the rest of their lives. Sources close to Messi said his words referred to the intense atmosphere and the ordinary pressure of a World Cup final. The speech captured on camera was also reportedly not the main team talk. A longer discussion had already taken place inside the dressing room. That explanation makes sense. Messi has repeatedly described football in simple terms. Play, compete, enjoy the ball. Return mentally to the game people first discovered as children. Before the final, he had said that pressure could distract a team from the act of playing. So when he told Argentina to forget everything, he may have been attempting to reduce the largest sporting event on earth to its simplest form. 11 against 11. One ball, one match. But Spain did that better. Spain played the game in front of them. Argentina appeared to play the history behind them. Every minute without possession made the burden heavier. Every missed opportunity to escape Spain's pressure increased frustration. Every refereeing decision threatened to reconnect the players with the controversies they had been told to forget. And when Enzo received the red card, the psychological structure finally broke. This was not evidence of a conspiracy. It was evidence of something more common and perhaps more frightening. A great team reached the moment it had spent years preparing for and discovered that preparation cannot completely protect the human mind. Argentina had survived pressure before. In 2022, they lost their opening match to Saudi Arabia and still became champions. They survived the Netherlands. They survived France's comeback in the final. They survived penalties. Those experiences created a belief that suffering belonged to them. But past survival can become a trap. A team begins to think it can always absorb one more crisis, one more bad half, one more emotional explosion, one more red card, one more impossible escape. Against Spain, the escape never came. Because Spain did not become impatient, they did not allow the match to turn into Argentina's preferred form of disorder. They continued moving the ball. They continued stretching the defense. They waited until the opening appeared. And when it did, Ferran Torres ended the story. Not Messi, not Enzo, not the referee, not the FBI. Ferran Torres, a substitute completing a team move in the 106th minute. Sometimes the truth is less dramatic than the rumor. Spain were better. That may be the one fact Argentina found hardest to forget. Because if the defeat came from a secret crisis, a corrupt official, or one irresponsible player, then the old world could remain intact. The team would only need to remove the problem. But if Spain simply controlled the match and deserved the trophy, Argentina must confront a deeper reality. The cycle is ending. Messi cannot remain forever. The emotional power of Qatar cannot be reproduced on command. The next generation will have to build its own identity. And Enzo Fernández, the man many people now want to blame, may still be central to that future. He is not only the player who was sent off in the final He is also the player who scored against England. He is a World Cup winner from 2022. He is one of the midfielders expected to carry Argentina after Messi, De Paul, and the older leaders disappear. How Argentina treats him now will reveal whether the famous idea of La Scaloneta was truly about family or only about winning. It is easy to call a team a family while trophies are being lifted. The test comes after the mistake. Does the group protect the player? Does it hold him accountable without destroying him? Does the public allow him to return? Or does one reckless challenge become a permanent identity? Football history is full of players reduced to one moment: a missed penalty, a red card, an own goal, a defensive error. The millions of correct decisions made before that moment disappear. Only the failure remains. Enzo may now face that danger, and there is a cruel irony in it. Messi spent much of his international career being judged in exactly the same way. For years, people ignored the goals, the assists, and the finals because he had not won the World Cup. His entire relationship with Argentina was reduced to what he had failed to do. Only after 2022 did the country finally allow the complete story to exist. Now, at the possible end of Messi's World Cup career, Argentina must decide whether it will repeat the same cruelty with one of his teammates. That decision may matter more than any rumor about what was said inside the dressing room. Because words spoken in private can heal. Public condemnation can last for decades. The viral tunnel video will continue to attract theories. People will slow down the footage. They will analyze body language. They will compare the players' expressions with earlier matches. They will claim that Messi knew something. They will insist that the team had already been emotionally broken. Perhaps new information will emerge. Perhaps someone inside the delegation will eventually explain whether an unusual rumor reached the squad. Perhaps Messi will clarify exactly what he meant. But until then, the video should not be treated as proof of a hidden operation. It should be treated as a portrait of pressure. 26 men standing at the edge of history. A captain trying to make the moment smaller. A team unable to leave the outside world behind. And a final that demonstrated the difference between calming words and genuine calm. Messi said, "Forget about everything." But the World Cup final contained everything. His age, his legacy, Argentina's pride, Spain's future, the controversy of the tournament, the fear of failure, the possibility of retirement, the guilt of a red card, the rage after defeat, the end of a generation. No human being could truly forget all of that, not even Lionel Messi. And maybe that is the real tragedy of New Jersey. Argentina did not lose because Messi failed to inspire them. They lost because inspiration could no longer remove the weight they were carrying. They did not lose only because Enzo Fernández lost control. They lost because Spain had already taken control of the match. They did not lose because of an unconfirmed rumor about the FBI. They lost because football eventually demanded an answer that emotion could not provide. Can you play when the story becomes bigger than the ball? Spain could. Argentina could not. The final whistle did not erase what Messi and this team had achieved. 2 consecutive World Cup finals remain extraordinary. The victory in Qatar remains permanent. The Copa America titles remain part of history. Messi's 21 World Cup goals cannot be removed. Neither can the years in which Scaloni transformed a damaged national team into a family trusted by an entire country. But endings have power. They change the way earlier chapters are remembered. And this ending was Messi, a mysterious speech, a match without attacking threat, a devastating red card, a goal in extra time, a fight after the whistle, a captain in tears, a coach preparing to leave, a young midfielder facing blame, a country attempting to understand how a team that had survived everything finally reached the one moment it could not survive. So what do you believe Messi wanted them to forget? Was it merely the noise and pressure surrounding the final? Did a disturbing rumor reach the dressing room? Or had the players already realized that this was not simply another match, but the final night of the world they had built together? We may not receive a complete answer. The most private moments in football often remain private. But perhaps Messi's words were never a clue to a secret. Perhaps they were a warning. He knew that Argentina were carrying too much into that tunnel. He knew that history, pride, fear, and expectation could become heavier than any opponent. He tried to remove that weight with one sentence: forget everything. Just play. For 90 minutes, Argentina barely could. For another 30, they tried to survive. And when Spain finally scored, everything Messi had asked them to forget came flooding back at once. That not a conspiracy, not an invented dressing room quote, and not one player's mistake is the real story of Argentina's lost World Cup final.